Hey everybody, what are we going to talk about today? Making bias tape. I've been making a lot of pillows with piping. Traditionally, we would take like fabric, we would cut it on a 45-degree angle, and then we'd stitch all those strips together. That's what I did for years. Pain in the ass. But I went online and started looking at all these different videos of people doing bias tape. And a lot of them were doing this technique I'm going to show you right now. And this is new to me. Okay, this is new to me. And I kept saying, God, who's the originator of this? Who came up with this concept? And I couldn't find anywhere anyone saying who the originator was that came up with this. So I did some more deeper research. And I think the person that I saw that actually introduced this was Pam Damore. And I don't even know if Pam invented this or not, but as far back as I could find, it went way back with Pam Damore before everybody else started doing it. So Pam, if you invented this, kudos to you and thank you. If you didn't, kudos to you for sharing with everybody. And I want to show everybody. So anyway, you can do this in any size piece of fabric. All right. What you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of fabric like this, and you're going to fold it on an angle like that. Okay. Then you'll press this. You'll press this, and then we're going to cut this open. So let me do that next. All right. So now I cut this open on the seam, on the fold that is. And I'm going to open it up. Okay? Alright. Now, this here, right here, this is on a straighter grain. This is on a straighter grain, right? This is on a straighter grain. Let's flip it this way. Our goal right now is to turn this into a parallelogram. So if we take this and bring it up here, like that, we now have a parallelogram. This is a straighter grain right here, and this is a straighter grain right here. So what you want to do to make sure that you've got this on the right sides is to make sure you're on a straighter grain. And you see how nice that lines up? Isn't that pretty? It is pretty, isn't it? I like that pattern. Now we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew this top part here together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then I'm going to press it open. I'll be right back. Alright, so I put the two pieces together. I started sewing and I said, oh, I forgot to put the second camera up to show you guys. So now I've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance and I'm sewing this down. I'm going to back stitch at the end and then just trim your thread. Now I'm going to press this flat to soften it, and then I'm going to open it up and press the seam open. Wow, look at that. That's pretty good. That's like a chevron. Look how nice that matched. Can you guys see that? Look how good that matched. It's like a chevron. That's pretty good, didn't it? Alright, so now I'll meet you back at the cutting table. Alright, there's what I just sewed. Okay? That's what I just sewed. Alright, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the bias. Here's the bias side. Okay? And on this bias side, I'm going to mark 2-inch increments, and then I'm going to get a chalk. I'm going to chalk it. Now I'm going to flip this around so you guys could see it better here. So I'm going to match, and you may find that you might have a tiny bit uneven Don't worry about that. Match it, match the line up as much as you can. Make sure that line is 2 inches at the top and 2 inches at the bottom here. Okay? And then take your chalk and mark it. What you're going to do is you're going to do that all the way down 2 inches. All the way down 2 inches. And I'll come back after I do that. Alright. So I did my 2-inch rows all the way across. And then what I have now, I had a little bit left over, so I just trimmed that off here. Okay? There. So now what are we going to do next? Okay, so here's that long piece that we started on. And I'm going to cut. Let me go to this side, be easier for you guys. I only marked it on this side because it's easier to see the pink chalk. What you want to do is you want to cut about 3 to 4 inches down on this pink line from the edge in. So let me just turn this around. I'm going to cut about 3 to 4 inches down. There we go. Okay, now, see this part I cut here? Pinch this with your fingers. Open it up. Over here is where we want to match it. Because this is also on a straighter grain, and this is a straighter grain right here. Okay? So I'm going to take this. Watch how I do this now. Because this is the tricky part that we all mess up on the first time. Bring this down. Because it's not going to match perfect, guys. It's going to feel really freaking weird. Okay? Take it and put it here. Bring it all the way down. You can pin it. You can pin it all the way down until you come to the end. You'll have something left over here. Don't worry about that because that'll get cut off. Now let me go to the sewing machine and sew this, and you guys can watch me, okay? Alright. Alright, so here we are at the sewing machine. This was that piece we brought up here. Now, what I want to show you is, you can see where I have the lines that I drew with the pink chalk. It's probably hard for you to see in the camera, but I'm going to try to show you. Here's a line here, my first line. If I go to the back side, here is the other line. Well, I want to match those lines, okay? I want to match those lines up. So you see, I want to match those lines up. Because this is going to give you, remember, we're going to end up cutting this into one continuous bias strip. So take a pin and pin that. Okay? This is going to feel weird as you're molding it down because it's not going to lay flat like you would expect it to. Here's another pink line. Here's the other pink line. Make sure that all matches up nice. Okay, if it matches up, there it is. See, it's all matching nice. So once you got that started, it'll be the same all the way down. There's the line, there's the line, and it's matching perfect. You're not going to see it yet until you start cutting, but believe me, this is how you do it. Alright, and don't worry if you've got a dog ear, a big old dog ear hanging off the end. You may or may not, depends. Okay, because every piece of fabric you fold is going to be a different size. So, nothing is, the theory and the technique is the same. Every piece of fabric will have a different amount of edges or whatever. So now I'm going to sew backwards first. And that's a trick I told everybody. I said, if you sew backwards first, you're not, the fabric on the top is not going to push forward. So you're not going to have uneven. Alright, so let's come forward. Alright, this is matching pretty good from what I see here. Just remember to take your pins out. Next thing you're going to do is going to press this, warm this up. They used to call this setting the seam. Oh, look at, I got this piece caught. I got this piece caught underneath. So I need to rip that out. So lesson learned. Be careful when you're sewing, you don't get the bottom piece caught. So I'm going to rip that out. See, even professionals make mistakes, right? Let me just rip that out because I got to show you how this is supposed to be. I love making mistakes for you guys so you can see that everyone makes a mistake. Alright, here we go. Let's start back in the middle here. I'll just start back in the middle here. Here we go. So lesson learned, make sure you pull all of it out here. There we go. And you will have a dog ear left over, so don't worry. Now we're going to press this open, the seam open, and you'll be able to see, I don't know if you can see so far, how these lines are pretty much matching. You see that? The lines are pretty much matching, so when we go to cut, we're just going to, see that? We're going to cut. So let me press this and I'll take it and show you. Alright, so I'm going to show you something. This is called a sleeve press. I picked this up at a garage sale. Some of you may have seen your great-grandmothers have this, or your grandmothers, or you might have seen this in tailor shops, and you wonder what do they use it for. It's for pressing sleeves. Well, because this is so, you can't see, this isn't straight. So this is a great pressing surface to be able to get this iron. You just keep turning, moving it down to press the seam open. Now here's also where you can see, like I can see where my line here isn't matching up perfectly there. So I'm going to take this and draw that line so it matches more with this connecting line here. Sometimes you'll have some lines that might be a little bit off, but you'll correct that when you go look ahead when you're cutting. Alright, so let's take this off. Alright, so now normally you would cut this right side out, but because I put the chalk marks on the inside, it doesn't matter as long as you're following your chalk lines. So I'm going to cut this all the way around, following the line. And look ahead too to make sure that sometimes you might have to fudge it a little bit, like I said. So just look ahead to make sure, because Lord knows, in the beginning when I started doing this, I made a few mistakes that I thought, how the hell did I do that, right? Well, we all make mistakes, as you saw what I just did earlier. So newbies, it's good for you to see people that have been sewing for a long time like me. We still make mistakes. You know, years ago there was a TV show called America Sews on PBS, and the host of that show her name was Sue Houseman, and she used to call mistakes creative opportunities. How many of you have always made a mistake? You wonder, what can I do? Well, your grandmother would probably say, put an applique over it. Or your friend might say, oh, put a patch on it, look like it's supposed to be there. So, now see, I can see the line there. It's faint for you guys, but I can still see it. And you just keep cutting this. You're going to have continuous binding, bias tape that is, continuous bias tape. So you don't have to do all these pieces together. Like I said, whoever invented this was a freaking genius. And the only person I could see that's been showing this for a very long time was Pam DeMar. And then of course the quilters got a hold of it, and the purse makers, and they started showing it, but no one ever gave credit because I don't think anybody ever knew where it came from. So I'm showing this because I learned from all those people on YouTube myself, but I can't take credit for it. I did not invent this technique. And I think that's a good thing to tell people whenever you're teaching, is to tell them, I did not create this technique, and through your researching you can find out who did create it, or who, if you couldn't find out who created it. But I think it's really important that we give credit where credit is due in the world. That's something that people forget to do. I know in a lot of sewing and quilting groups, one person will see an idea and they'll try to take it as their own idea. Like I said, this is not my technique, my idea, but I wanted to share it in a way that the rest of you can see, to try to make it easier for you, because I know a few of the videos I watched were a little difficult to follow, but I hope I make this as easy as possible for you guys to follow. And like I said, normally I would mark this on the outside, on the right side that is, but it really doesn't matter. This is the first time I'm marking on the back, just because I want you guys to see this. Okay, so here's where you're going to come to some waste. You might come to a little bit of waste, we'll see in a second here. There's a tube there. That might have been a mistake. Cut that. Let's see how wide that is. No, that is 2 inches wide, so however mistake I made with that, we're able to just be able to sew it back on. So here's something here that was a mistake. I curved it in too much, which you guys might make that mistake. So I'm pointing out all these little mistakes that might happen. So this would be a good opportunity to cut this off here and sew this in between both. But normally you'll have perfect, all the way down, continuous binding. Isn't that great? All from that little piece, and you've got all this binding now. Okay? I hope that helped you. Here's another tip. After you sew your piping on, you may have uneven edges like this little piece here I missed. So there's this ruler. Speaking of Pam DeMar, she got this ruler. I bought this ruler off her website. This is not a paid advertisement. I just think she does a lot in our industry, and Pam should be credited for a lot of things. So thank you, Pam, for inventing this. Okay, so it's got these grooves in it, and you lay your piping in that groove. And you take a rotary cutter and you slice off the edge so you have perfectly even piping. Isn't that great? So make sure you can see that. Let me get a piece of paper behind here so you can see that. There's the name. You see that okay? Let me try and move up closer. Alright. Alright, I hope this guys I hope this helped you, because it sure helped me. And I'm still learning, as you see. This is still a work in progress for me, but I wanted to make these mistakes to show you can still make little mistakes, but it's okay because it's not like before. But you see, look how many times you would have to bind, sew these strips, these 45-inch strips together, the 45-degree strips together, where you don't have to. This is all continuous. Isn't that amazing? Love it. Absolutely love it. And then you'll end up with yards and yards and yards of piping. The bigger the fabric, the longer the yards of binding you're going to have. But you can see that that little bit of fabric I had, how much binding I actually got from that. Alright? Okay, till next time, take care. Practice, give it a try. And check, this ruler is, oh my god, she's a genius for inventing this. Pam DeMar, I met her a few times on the road. We were working together, indirectly working together at shows, trade shows and stuff. And I met her, and the first time I met her, oh, she was bubbly and delightful. She's full of fun. I love her. In fact, she's that type of girl that you feel like she's been your best friend your whole life, and you can tease the hell out of her because she's so funny. So anyway, if you know Pam, you'll know her techniques for teaching. She did a lot with draperies and stuff all those years. I think she still has DVDs on her website. So go over to her website if you want education. She's got some DVDs on there. And they're timeless because all those drapes and everything are made the same. Still made the same throughout all the years. So now I'm going to get back to making my pillows. Talk to you all later. Bye.